it makes you wonder how well it would have done if they would have held on to it until the following summer. Like how you were saying before of there was a new director brought in for the third act. For me personally, I think that last act, I love it, but it feels a little rushed. They could have, put in 5 more minutes of the shootout, 5 more minutes of the fighting at the end, 5 more minutes of like driving around the maze. I think if they maybe would have held on to it until the following summer, gave it a proper release the following summer, and really finished it off right, I think it would have been big.
Yeah, and just looking at the critical response, I mean, the film when it came out received negative reviews. New York Times criticized the film, the screenplay. Tango and Cash was also nominated for Golden Raspberry Awards for Worst Actor and Worst...
Not surprised. Get the whatever. Not surprised. Not whatever. Fuck the Razzies.
And Worst Supporting Actor for... It says Kurt Russell in The Drag.
Okay, that's another thing I remember from that movie. That's one of the reasons why I remember that movie. I don't even want to talk about that shit.
I don't want to talk about either. But
yeah,
the critical consensus states that brutally violent and punishingly dull, this cookie-cutter buddy cop thriller isn't even fun enough to reach so bad it's good status.
Get the fuck out of here.
They did the same thing to Rambo 2.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Alex, I was talking to Alex last week, and he brought that up. They did the same thing to Rambo 2, and Stallone got a Razzie for that, too. And when you look at it, that's like one of the most influential movies, probably the most influential movie of the 80s, because it started a whole phenomenon. It started a whole...
It led the way for movies like... It led the way for movies like this in the first fucking place.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fuck. I'm getting sick of fucking crazy.
And like me, personally, I think Sly's, acting is amazing in Rambo 2. Just like I thought his acting was great here, because we got to see a different type of Sly. Rambo 2, we think of it now as, the height of that era of action or whatever. But when you look at it, we also got a different type of Rambo, because the Rambo in First Blood was not that same type of Rambo. The original Rambo is very held back. Yeah, the original Rambo is very held back, whereas the Rambo in Rambo 2, we got a new vision of of what we could see if Rambo just went for it.
Kind of the start of the one-man army, if you want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, because that same year you had Commando that came out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my baby right there. We need to get a discussion about that.
I think it was 3 Chuck Norris movies that came out that year too. So I mean, 1985 was a hot year for action, and definitely it really personifies the greatness of Stallone and just the greatness of the second Rambo film. To hell with the Razzies. I know they did the same thing for Cobra.
Yeah.
Right, I believe.
Cobra was great too, because that's another film where Stallone reinvented himself. Reinvented his physique. Even his vocal dialogue is completely different.
And of course with the short hair, he had short hair in this.
Yeah, he pokes fun at himself a lot in that film. It's a great movie. Actually, I wanted to ask you guys, I got a request to do Contra next week. If you guys want to come on for that.
Sure.
A Contra request by Kevin James Donnelly requested that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that most definitely, because I remember me and John, we did a discussion of movies ideas we'd like to see, and I think would be good. I just want to ask you this.
Yeah, because I know you wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
I know you wanted to ask a question. I was going to get to that. Yeah, I know you wanted to ask something.
Okay. I want to ask you, speaking of Contra, do you think this movie would have been even better if it was Stallone playing Tango and Schwarzenegger playing Cash?
It would have worked. Well, maybe you could. I don't know. It would have worked, but maybe it would switch the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Stallone, have Stallone be the renegade and Arnold be more of that kind of cop from Red Heat.
Yeah.
Say.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
When he busts off the guy's leg, poof.
Yeah.
Cocaine.
Okay, no.
I don't want to
Okay,
touch his
no.
ass. I want it to talk. But
The bus at the end had Montreal on it, like the Showdown bus.
Arnold didn't do anything that year.
No, he did. He, of course, the year before that, it was just Red Heat 1989. I think in 1989 he was still working on Total Recall.
Yeah,
He was filming Total Recall, and then it came out. In 1990. Of course, yeah, Terminator 2, of course.
Yeah, definitely. So that's probably what it is.
Here's one for
you.
you.
Know what? I think they wanted him to film Predator 2 around 1989, but of course the whole poll they wanted him to do Terminator 2, so I think that's why he didn't do Predator 2. I think they were filming Predator 2 around 1989.
I have a script for that with Arnold's character in it. Amazing. Amazing.
Really?
Yeah, it was a Robert Rodriguez vehicle, like one of his early things he wrote. Fascinating. A lot of it made it into Predators, believe it or not, but Predators was actually very toned down from that original. That original draft was fucking insane, insanely bloody, gory. Here's one for you. How about if Tango and Cash was directed by Paul Verhoeven?
Oh, it would have been bloodier and more epic, man. I would have loved that movie 10 times better. My favorite buddy movie, 10 times even better.
It would have been a perfect time too. I mean, just coming off RoboCop.
Oh yeah.
Just imagine what he could do with the ultra violence and but still have the funness of Arnold and Stallone.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been great. Or you could maybe look at Paul Verhoeven. Look around, just looking around this time of great action directors, John McTiernan.
Oh yeah.
Who else? I mean, I don't know, but I was trying to think of other action directors.
I've got John Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Tango Cash.
Andrew Davis from who did Code of Silence. Code of Silence and Above the Law.
Above the Law.
The guy who did Die Hard, that was John McTiernan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Ray Harlan.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, coming off of Elm Street, eh?
Yeah.
He did Elm Street 4, right?
I think he did the 4th, yeah.
Yeah, it was part 4, Dream Master.
Yeah, part 5 I think came out that year, 89. But yeah, Tango Cash should have been a bigger hit. I just don't get, it was just, December is just a weird time, and considering who was involved, it should have made more numbers and more success. So next question, kind of talking about the production problems. It says the film was directed by Andre, I can't pronounce his last name, but production was beset with problems and disarray. Kind of, what are our thoughts on the troubling production for Tango and Cash, and why was there complications?
I heard that Stallone's ego got in the way because something about he didn't like the light. He didn't like how the lighting was on his face or something like that.
Yeah.
I heard a crazy story. The reason why he didn't do Beverly Hills Cop was because he was in his trailer and he didn't like the orange juice they were giving him.
For real. I didn't hear about that.
This isn't hand twisted. This isn't hand squeezed orange juice.
I want Sunny D.
Orange Julius. You remember that skit?
Yes. I love that skit. That's like some of the best Stallone acting I've ever seen. Like, no, I'm not joking. That skit is so out of the box Stallone. Like that is like, oh man, that's such a great skit.
But yeah, I mean, because I heard something about the troubling production for Tango and Cash, but I wasn't like 100% on what happens. But reading off Wikipedia right here, production was beset with problems from the beginning. Patrick Swayze, who was originally cast as Cash, dropped out and went to star in Roadhouse. Then principal photography began with a completed script. Stallone, infamous for his huge ego, had the original director-photographer Barry Sonnenfeld fired because Stallone felt the lighting was not displaying him to his satisfaction.
Wow.
guy they got, Donald E. Thorin, who had shot Stallone's movie Lockup earlier that year, was his replacement. Then, after nearly 3 months of filming, director Andrei Konchalovsky was fired by producer John Peters in a dispute over the movie's ending.
John Peters, he's trouble, man.
Oh, for real?
He was trouble. He is a troublesome. Apparently, he was like really troublesome in Hollywood. Like, he is apparently a shit disturber. That guy. Have you guys seen the Death of Superman Lives What Happened?
I want to see that documentary.
There is a ton of John Peters stories in there that are insane. Just insane stories that he was like stealing things from the set, and like Batman. Okay, you know, like the tagline in Batman where Michael Keaton holds up the guy and goes, "I'm Batman."
Yeah.
The famous line. The script actually, his notation from the script, it was supposed to be, "I'm Batman, motherfucker." And he thought that was great for the kids. He was like, the kids were like, you could see him telling the story, like, "I'm Batman, motherfucker," and the kids go, "Yeah, all right." You know, he was like crazy.
That would have been epic. That would have been even more epic, man. Wow.
He is crazy. That guy. He's also the guy who threw that giant spider into the Will Smith movie. That big.
Wild West.
Yeah.
Oh.
And there's like a ton of John Peters stories by Kevin Smith. If you look him up on the internet, there's like tons.
So that big spider was his brainchild?
Yeah, he wanted Doomsday to be that big spider.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. Jeez.
Yeah.
But it says the movie's ending for Tango and Cash was replaced by Albert Magnoli, so it was two directors technically, who filmed all the chase and fight scenes in the ending.
Wow.
Reportedly, executive producer Peter McDonald, who also was second unit director for Rambo 3, took over directing the movie before Magnoli was brought in.
Wow.
A year earlier, McDonald had to step in as the director for Stallone's previous movie, Rambo 3, after the original director was fired by Stallone. Another reason why the original director was fired was his refusal to agree to what he referred to as the increasingly insane demands that Peters had. He said that he was initially hired to make a buddy cop movie with plenty of humor, but Peters basically wanted to turn it into a spoof without any resemblance of a seriousness, and the director refused.
Wow. I was going to bring up the Rambo 3 thing too, because McDonald came in with like less than 24 hours notice or something like that on Rambo 3. Saved the film, but they gutted they gutted 70-80% of the story. If you go back and read the script, it's completely different than Rambo 3. It's maybe 80% different. The story is completely different. Like, very much different.
Man.
Yeah. Like, they had extra characters. More kids were involved in it. Hamid, the little boy, was actually a girl. They had, like, a French nurse who was also helping them. There was no action climax at the end. It was a chase, like in First Blood. Like, the last half of the movie was this giant chase sequence. Rambo kills Zyson, like, he's riding a horse. He jumps over a carrier, and he fucking whips his knife and staples Zyson's head into the ground, like, bam. And there's no fight with Kurov. Kurov actually comes up to Rambo and says, "I was going to kill him, but you saved me from doing that," and they part ways, and Zyson's way more evil. He pours acid all over this little boy, and fucking, it's a really bleak.
That was in the novel. That was in the novelization.
The original
David Morrell did.
Yeah, it was also in the shooting script before McDonald came on. If you look back at some of those old interviews, some of the old Rambo 3 interviews, Sly says, "Well, we didn't know what type of movie we were doing until the last second." So,
damn.
Yeah, they gutted out a lot of stuff that would have made it a way more psychological, intense thriller.